Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to this week's episode of The Cutting Edge with G Money. Today, we have an internationally recognized activist and artist who is well known for being one of the founding members of the punk group Pussy Riot. In 2012, she was held as a political prisoner in Russia. And today, literally just a few minutes ago, she launched her latest drop, Virgin Mary, Please Be a Feminist. So please help me give a warm welcome to Nadya from Pussy Riot. Hey Nadya, how are you?
Hello, what's up? Thank you so much for having me. I was looking forward to this conversation so much. I think it's going to be so cool and interesting. What a great collab we have here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for taking the time. And I kind of just want to get started and kind of just dive right into it. I was out to dinner last night with a few friends, and we were discussing your drop. And we were discussing it, and there's the really interesting part about it, I think, is how the entire ethos that crypto was founded on, right? The original cypherpunk movement was really based on this idea of self-sovereignty and resistance against censorship, right? That's where it all comes from. And to me, the situation that you've lived through personally, I feel like you've really embodied why something like this needs to exist. So I guess I'd love to start off by asking, really, how has crypto changed your life with regards to activism and being able to help people? Because obviously coming from Russia, where you were in a very authoritarian state, it must have been very hard for you to be taking a stand against the government. And that's why I'm just curious, how has crypto helped you in that regard?
Mic is on. This world feels like something really natural for Pussy Riot. Just the other day at Blizzard DAO Doge Party, I met a person who is my personal hero, the founder of Tor, the Tor project. So, being in the room with people like that makes my life meaningful, because I always was trying to live my life in a way so it's not just for me, but it's for something bigger than me. And I'm personally using Tor since I was a baby, because I'm coming from an activist and anarchist community. And we spoke about that with Ryan, thank you, X, and he's coming from this activist background. I believe he was a straight edger when he was a teenager. So it makes sense for us, and because we were living in decentralization, in anarchy, in importance of protecting yourself from centralized structures like governments. It was part of our ethos since the very beginning of, when we formed our communities, it was the core of what we believed in. So years later, when I stepped into the NFT space, it was the beginning of this year, I quickly became obsessed with it, just because so many people here share the same values as I have. And even though we can have different aesthetical values or political views at times, it doesn't matter to me as much, because I feel like things that we're standing here together for, they're much bigger than that. And by saying that, I mean the value of decentralization, because I always was trying to, find an answer, how do we build an efficiently working anarchist decentralized society that will allow us to have distribution to members who need it, equal opportunities that will allow us to create public goods and make sure that no one is left out. But at the same time, without using a centralized governing body. And as a person who lived in Russia for most of my life, I don't like the Soviet experiment, right? So the answer having necessarily the big state is not always is not an answer that I want to hear. So seeing tools that Web3 brings into our lives for building better democracy, better activism, and scaling our communities and being able to interact and collaborate on a global level really makes me excited, because things that we are like issues and activist issues and political issues, you can call it as you want, but issues that we're facing right now as humanity, they're global. Things like global warming, distribution of resources and food, they all will have to be decided globally. And I feel like Web3 is going to play a big role in that. So what I'm trying to do is to bring activist community and familiarize them with these tools, because I believe in their power, but also these are just tools. So they could be used for by any person, by villain or by saint. So I'm trying to make sure that as many amazing people with great values and kind hearts have access to these tools.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. I totally agree with you, right? Like, it's one of those things where we need to be using these powers for good as opposed to for bad. And one of those things that, like, I feel like everybody growing up has always had some like injustice that probably they're like, oh, that's not right. I want to stand up for it, or I want to make a point. But I feel like usually people don't follow through with that, right? Like, so I guess I'm really curious, as a fan and somebody that has followed your career, like what in your life like led you to the point of activism where you were like willing to take a stand and willing to go to jail, right? And for the things that you believe in, because I feel like a lot of times people will say one thing, but they won't necessarily live it. And like, I think one of like the beautiful things about what you've been doing is that, you've really fought for what you believe. So I'm just super curious as to like, what was it in your life, if there was a specific moment, if anything, or if it was just a culmination of a bunch of things together that led you to say enough is enough?
Well, first of all, G Money, the legend of the space, tells me that he is a Pussy Riot fan. I just want everyone to take a second and appreciate it, because it's a huge honor. Like, really serious. Like, ever since Justin introduced us, I followed what you do, and I have so much respect for everything you do in the space. So thank you for these words. And it was not, in my case, it was not just one factor. It was a combination of factors. Partly my upbringing. I have a dad who is really political himself. And when I was 10 years old, he told me this kind of lame to just read glamorous magazines. I was reading Cosmopolitan at the time, and Glamour magazine and Vogue. And I wanted to be nice and in the eyes of my dad. And so I started to read political magazines instead. So it all started from trying to please a man, of course, who was my dad at the time. And by the way, this is kind of problematic that a lot of girls' identities they're forming about trying to please a man, but that's a completely different story. So there was that. And also another thing, my mom had a book on feminism in our apartment. And I was 8 years old, and I found this book, and it opened me the whole beautiful world, because I realized that most of my teachers in school, they're women. In Russia is a pretty matriarchal country. In Russia, women run the family. They decide where the resources are going to go. And often a wife would take money from, like, salary from her husband and decide what to do with it, right? How to allocate it for their whole family. So Russia domestically is really a matriarchal country, and that's what I had going on in my family. So this is on the one hand, and on the other hand, I have history of arts and culture and just general history that was written by men and for men. And the main actors of this history that I was finding in my textbooks, they were all men. And it struck me as an incredible imbalance in just narratives that we tell ourselves and our children at school. And I started to question it. And then my classmate told me that, hey, look, you will grow up and you will stop hating men and you'll start enjoying them. And I was like, dude, I do not hate you. It's not about hatred. It's about equality. And in order to fix something that was built up in our culture and in our political systems, like, we have to talk about it. So that's how I became a feminist super early on. And then I started to read about cases of political imprisonments in Russia, and I wasn't up for it. I was also really young, like 10, 12 years old, and I feel like in kids, sense of justice is really strong, and I just felt that this is not right, and I can be up for a political system that imprisons people for making symbolic protest actions. Like, they did not commit any violent crime, so they should not be inside jail. That's what I thought. And then I moved to Moscow from Siberia. I started to study philosophy, and I wanted to write about queer issues. I wanted to write about how queer identities are forming, and I was studying philosophy, but that was not allowed because we live in a good country, but it's really homophobic government. If you ask a Russian person, on average, they do not care what sexuality you have. So most of Russians, and they're not homophobic, but our government is. And I was studying in Moscow State University, so I had a lot of that. And combination of all these factors brought me to starting my first art collective.
So I guess one question I have about what you said at the end there is, were you raised religious at all?
Not at all. Well, at some point in my life, we had this conversation with my dad, who I dearly love, and I was bragging about being an atheist. And I remember I was really young, like 7, but my dad would always talk to me like I was an adult, and that had a lot of positive and negative influences in my life. I mostly positive. I think that's how you should talk with kids, but also, I don't know, there was a lot of pressure. And he would be like, don't be so dumb. Like, he would be like, I mean, there is a thing. And he talked to me a little bit about like spirituality. So that somehow sticked with me. But when it comes to traditional religions, I'm not religious, but I really love to study them because I think they're powerful tools for, teaching people how to care about each other. So if that works for someone, I'm here for it. So I'm a person who actually read New Testament 10 times from the beginning to the end, and I was making notes and learning phrases from it by heart because I want to understand like what religious people mean when they say things. And like whenever somebody tells me like Jesus don't want you to have an abortion, I want to be able to come up with the Bible quote that will explain like why Jesus would actually want me to have an abortion.
Right. Yeah. No. It's interesting. I was asking that because as I was like thinking about it last night and today, is like, you obviously have a lot of integrity and a lot of good ethics, and a lot of that usually stems from religion. But I agree with you where, I'm very much, of the whole point of do whatever you want to do as long as you don't hurt somebody else, right? So
Absolutely.
If you want to love a person of the same gender or opposite gender, to me it doesn't matter, right? Because you're not hurting anybody, and that's what Jesus would want, I would think, right?
I think so. And regarding abortion, I mean, okay, like at some point, I'm remember when Jesus saw people, it was a funeral procession, and he said that do not care about, he said like a fucking blasphemous things. He would say like, do not care about your family, care about your religion, care about what you believe in, like let other people make this funeral procession for you, and you just join me, and we're going to spread our values. So I mean, honestly, this kind of attitude is like too radical even for me. But if you really study Jesus, he's pretty radical, and it was changed a lot later by churches, because they were, combined with governments, they became this big corrupted structures that were trying to make their own members to live lavish lifestyles, and deprive others from normal lives. But that's a long conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I
in my art pieces, like the reason why I touch this issues, because I feel like Virgin Mary has to get more credit for what she has done, because mostly she's been looked at as mere vessel. Like, she was just this womb that brought a god to the world. But actually, if you are capable of bringing a god to the world, it means that you're godly as well. So I think she should get a little bit more agency. So yeah, that's why I'm referencing her in my art.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I'm not trying to get like too religious here. I was just super curious with what your upbringing was, because I was just super curious as to kind of what got you here to where we are today. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I guess
I love your question.
Thank you.
I can talk forever.
I guess I'll take a break right there for a second. So for the people that are listening in that want to collect the POAP, you can go to g.money/POAP. That's POAP. And you can collect today's POAP. It's going to be available for the next 20 minutes until 7:45. And it's a special edition where actually the Virgin Mary that's literally just went up for auction 26 minutes ago is included is part of the POAP. So thank you for allowing us to share it on the POAP. But yeah, I mean, to kind of, I guess, go back to a little bit about the history and how you ended up getting here is, I guess, so you said you started the art collective when you got to Moscow. And so is that how Pussy Riot was formed right then and there, or did that still take some time from there?
It took some time. I formed my first art collective when I was 17. I just moved to Moscow, and I knew that I wanted to combine politics with art and at the same time study philosophy. So I co-founded this collective that's called Voina, which means war. And we started a war on all traditional institutions, because we thought that there is not enough disruption in the art space that we saw in front of us. It was 2007 when we started, and most of the artists, I'm not saying everyone because you never can generalize, but most of the artists, they would care much more about money, fame, glamorous dinners, exhibitions, and I don't know, drinks. And we were not feeling it, because we saw that art here is to subvert, change meaning of, change paradigms, basically. Like we wanted to create something as big as artists in the beginning of 20th century created. And my role models are avant-garde artists from the beginning of 20th century. And when I was my first love in life was Vladimir Mayakovsky, who is an avant-garde poet from Russia. And that's pretty hard to beat that. So I wanted to create a group that can bring as much value and change into the world as Vladimir Mayakovsky and people around him did. So we started to make performances, mostly in the middle of the street, and we were our goal was to make performances for people from random people on the street for free. We would never charge for our performances, because how would you charge if you make a performance in a public place? We would just appear there, make our thing, and go and document it. That's why I always say that Pussy Riot were digital artists from the very beginning, because we never created physical items. It will always be just photography or videos that we have from our actions. And one of my favorite ones was a dig in front of the FSB. So do you know in St. Petersburg, they have these bridges that are going up during the night, and they're connecting back, so they form the road. So we painted a giant penis on that bridge, and then it erected right in front of the FSB building. And FSB is like Russian CIA or FBI, something like that. Another favorite one was Skull and Bones. We projected giant Jolly Roger Skull and Bones on the Russian White House. It was huge. It was like 50 meters length and height. And then it was a sign for us to start storming the White House. So our group, including us, we climbed over the fence, a 6-meter fence, and destroyed some security cameras inside and ran away. So we were never caught. So yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah. So
another one was kissing police officers. We were kissing police officers, girls, like girls would kiss girls, and we wanted them to just be nicer, because we were like, everyone wants to just like, beat the police, and like, what if we're just going to start kissing them?
Right. Yeah.
Some of them reacted really nicely. Some of them would be like, hey, like, why did you do it in public? Like, we could just go somewhere else.
That's funny. That's like it's like a spread love message, right? Like,
yes.
It's yeah, definitely. Like sometimes I feel like I see people with the free hug signs where it's like, yeah, like it's just so taboo even to just give a stranger a hug, right? And that makes the world of a difference. Yeah. So I guess what led to you becoming a political prisoner in 2012, and then more importantly, like what was it like being in a Russian prison? What was that experience like? Because I know it's very linked to your drop from today. So,
like for this, I might want to go outside and smoke a cigarette, which I don't normally do. But since we talk about Russian jail, the jail was the only one place where I had to smoke cigarettes every day, because that was really a stressful place, as you can imagine. And also, in order to socialize with people, you would have to smoke cigarettes, because otherwise, like, where are you going to talk?
Right. Yeah. And so like, I guess like your experience there, was it worse than, not that like you could ever have a good experience in jail, but was it worse than others because of the political part of it?
It was different. It was more challenging psychologically. It was definitely better physically, because other girls around me, they would be beaten, and that they would not do that with me, because I had lawyers and media attention. But on the other hand, because they could not use physical tortures against me, they would use psychological ones. So just imagine, I'm not suggesting you to go to jail. Imagine like G-Money and me are homies in jail, and though it's forbidden to become friends with Pussy Riot in jail, G-Money decided to become friends with me. So he supports me psychologically, and just to, like having good time and like have fun with me, just laughs about like certain issues, like I don't know. And then next day, G-Money is being punished. He's sent to solitary confinement, and for no reason. And like when you ask for a reason, they tell you it's because you were communicating with Pussy Riot, and you're not supposed to do that. Or G-Money is losing his ability to have a parole, and he was working really hard to get a parole. He has his family, his kids waiting for him, outside of prison, and he was working really hard to get it and to get out of prison 4 years later, 4 years earlier than the end of his time. And he loses his ability to do that just because he was talking to me. So that was the kind of psychological torture. One woman was moved to a special unit where she was beaten because she dared to support me. So that was the most difficult thing, because like one thing is like when it concerns just you, and another thing when it concerns other people who you love.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, man, I can't imagine, right? It's like, because that's like the worst kind of torture, right? Because it's like they're basically trying to make you like be all alone, right? And that's kind of like the basis of humanity, right? Is connecting with another person, and to try to like cut that off, even though obviously the physical abuse wasn't as bad, but like it's almost like the mental abuse is even worse, because that's like what humans need to survive, you know?
Absolutely. And then it's whole guilt trip, because you can't do anything with that. It's unjust. You can't really help people who decided to be your friends, and that's the worst. That's the worst torture. I mean, that's why I decided to isolate myself eventually, and I went on a hunger strike. I wrote a letter that became viral. Actually, it became viral in Russia first, and then Guardian translated it to English. So it became viral all over the world. And I just described on 5 pages conditions in my prison, which were terrible. Like, we had to work. It basically was a labor camp. And you had to, like, everyone around me had to work for 16 hours a day. I worked for 8 just because they were scared to make me work more. But it was torturous in a way, because I had to perform the same quota, like, let's say, to perform 200 operations in 8 hours, while everyone else had 16 hours to perform that. And I was sewing police uniforms, which is like fucking ironic and insane if you think about it. And I wrote an open letter. I started the hunger strike, and hold this hunger strike for 10 days. And then a person who was, he's like a human rights commission person for the president of Russia, Putin. He contacted me. He contacted me by phone, and it was the prison warden who came with his mobile phone, because I didn't have mobile phones in jail, obviously. He came with his mobile phone. He gave me that, and he was like, "Oh, this is like this guy who's this human rights person near Putin. He wants to talk to you. He wants you to stop your hunger strike, because we're fucking tired of Guardian and Times and Spiegel writing about our prison system." So they promised me to make it better. It did become better for a second, but the problem is, if you don't change the whole system, it's not going to change forever, right? So it became better for a second, and then it came back. I was sent from that prison camp to Siberia, because they were hoping that in Siberia, my family and other Pussy Riot activists and journalists are not going to follow. They did, though. But the coolest fact of this story is 8 years later, after I started my hunger strike, I was already on freedom, just enjoying my time on the beach somewhere. I got this news that my ex-prison warden that built the slave labor system in my jail, he faced a criminal case for that. So now he's convicted because of my open letter, which makes me so proud.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations. That's like some like
thank you.
Like some vindication there, right? So yeah, no, thank you.
I was in Dominican Republic.
You were
if you've ever been, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's a great
and I'm
letter.
reading this news, and he's under house arrest. I'm like, yes, bitch.
That's great. I want to take this opportunity right here to just let everybody in the audience know that there's 7 minutes left to claim the POAP. In order to claim it, you can go to g.money/POAP. That's G.money/POAP. to claim the special edition POAP with Pussy Riot. And yeah, so I guess like, because I obviously, I think the history of how you ended up here is super important, especially for this drop. One of the questions I have, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is like, what is the status of Pussy Riot, the other members right now? Like, is there still persecution against members? Like, I know you're here in the United States under asylum. What is it like for other members at the moment, right? Like, I assume, you're fighting for them as well.
Definitely. And part of the money that I'm going to be able to collect with this drop, they're going to this legal fund for Pussy Riot members, and also just to help them stay alive, because if you are being arrested 20 days out of 30, you can't really have a normal job. So a lot of them who are still based in Russia, they're just struggling with having their ends meet, because imagine you're a model or an actress or I don't know, whoever, and they just keep losing your jobs because you're getting arrested, and you can't do anything with that. You're getting arrested simply because you're a member of Pussy Riot, and they don't even have to give any better explanation. They just put you in jail for 15 or 20 or 30 days. And this summer we had 10 members of Pussy Riot being arrested in Russia constantly. Sometimes it would be as absurd as them leaving jail and being rearrested at the door of the jail. And they would be like, why am I being arrested right now? And they don't give any explanation. They just give you another 2 weeks of arrest. So a lot of members of Pussy Riot, they were forced, after this campaign against them, this repressions that happened this summer, they had to leave Russia. And they're in different parts of the world. I'm not going to name them, but it's not easy. But my favorite part about Pussy Riot community is we somehow remain positive, even when we end up in the worst possible conditions. We somehow believe that, this is just, we feel like we failed, but just for a second, because in the grand scheme of things, it feels like Putin is going to lose just because he's not as supported as he used to be supported. And, with change of generations, I have a daughter, she's 13, and a lot of people her age, like most of the people her age, they do not support Putin. If you go on TikTok, you'll see trends on Russian TikTok of the Russian girls and boys just like being pro-feminist and pro-LGBTQ and against Putin. So I think it's just a matter of time. It's definitely really difficult for me and my community right now in Russia to go through this time, but we're positive about that. 2 members of Pussy Riot right now, they just got convicted for a year of restricted freedoms, which means a strict curfew. They cannot leave Moscow. They cannot participate in any public events, and it means mostly protest events and rallies. And that happened just because they are members of Pussy Riot.
Right. Yeah. No. That makes total sense. Like, that's why I think it's so admirable that you're sitting here and, here you are and still working for the cause. One of the things that really stood out to me when the first time we spoke, because we were talking with Justin and working with Save Art Space, was, like you mentioned to me how, yeah, of course, in like the major metropolitan cities, you're going to have a great following, right? Like of people that really stand for what you believe in. And, there's people that definitely support you there. But what you're concerned about more and where you want to make more of an impact is like, in like, let's call them the flyover states, the conservative states where I remember you told me, you're like, I've done shows and people come to me and like, you don't understand, like watching you perform, like, has been life-changing and it's really affected me, as opposed to, in a major city, you're going to get more of those fans, but you're probably not having as much of an impact.
Absolutely. I just came from Alabama and I played 2 shows in a row, and it was really intimate venues. It was just 250 people in one evening, which, like, if we decide to go to New York, it's going to be like over 1,000. And I think theoretically, for most of the performers, it would be much more exciting because they could see a lot of fans and also you generate much more money. But it was important for me because I saw those people's faces, and it happened just a week ago, and I saw people in the front row, this lesbian couples who would be in the front row in Alabama, and they're so incredibly thankful. And I stayed with them after the concert. I talked like with 2 hours with everyone who came to my show, and it was amazing to hear their stories and their struggles in the red state of struggles of progressive people. And for me, it's really important to come to those places because I come from the activist background. I'm not in music for to play stadiums or to become super popular. It's more about just supporting people who share the same values as me. And coming back to the NFTs, I have to say that the reason why I'm able to do it right now this year, which is a difficult year for every artist, especially musician, especially touring musician, because we didn't have any tours for the last couple of years. The reason why I'm able to do it, and I'm coming to Texas in a few days. I'm performing on the 2nd of October in Austin and in Dallas, 2 cities in the same day. It's going to be a Women's March. So if anyone is around, please join us. The reason why I'm able to do that and play these concerts as benefits, because I'm benefiting 100% of proceeds to Planned Parenthood, just because of NFT sales. I made a drop earlier this year on Foundation. It was called Panic Attack. And we create, ever since, a lot of activist projects, a lot of activist art. I'm about to shoot a music video, like feminist music video tomorrow. And all of it is just paid with you guys supporting Pussy Riot in our cause. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. And I guess this is a great segue to kind of start talking about NFTs. And like specifically, I guess the first question is, like, how have NFTs helped with your fundraising? Like, have you been able to get, I guess, access to more fundraising? Has it been easier? I assume, obviously, in Russia, the system was really stacked against you. But how has that changed now? And like, what do you see? How do you see crypto and blockchain affecting activism in the future?
Well, we had a really exciting conversation with Vitalik Buterin about that, and I'm looking forward to interview more people from the crypto space about their system of fundraising. And Vitalik told me a lot about this quadratic funding system, which seems pretty exciting because it equalizes participants in the fundraiser. But personally, for us, it was incredibly freeing because before, our system was basically I would just get money from shows that we do and then put them back into the art. So that is pretty challenging because when you are a protest collective, most of the brands, Apple, Spotify, and any clothing brands, they're really scared to work with you because someone can be upset. And so when NFTs came along, I feel like it's like a completely different community of people. They're just generally much more against censorship and much more up to supporting values that are different, values that are challenging current system, and that was really liberating. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm creating this Discord, Pussy Riot's community Discord, and I want to combine these 2 worlds of activist world and the world of Web3 people, and I want them to cross-pollinate and educate each other on how they can be better at what they do, because I feel like over the last 10 years, we've built this incredible, amazing, big, giant global community of activists, but they do not necessarily know about these tools that we have right now in our hands. And I was fortunate enough to learn about them from my friends because, over the last couple of years, I formed this circle with really great, bright minds, including people like Asad and Jack, who made this jetpack Jadu drop that happened recently. Met Trippy, who is amazing, Mark Boucher, who is in charge of the War Nymph NFT drop on Super Rare. Oh no, it was on Nifty Gateway. So all of those people, they taught me a lot about the tools that I can use for my activism, and now I'm just really excited to give it further. And yeah, just come by Pussy Riot Discord, and teach each other about tools and values. I was scared for a second when I started this Discord because I was like, I'm not, because I'm also working a lot on music and I draw and I make music videos. I was like, I'm not going to be able to just sit on Discord and teach everyone how to, start a MetaMask, how to connect your wallet to Super Rare. And what I've been told is, people will do that themselves. And people in this ecosystem, they're really big on self-organizing. And that's exactly what happened. And that's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And like one of the questions, or I guess the thoughts that I had is like, and I alluded to this at the top of the hour, is like I really do think a lot of the stuff that you're working on and having finally access to, let's say, a steady flow of capital because of the decentralization of money, right? And that's, at the end of the day, we all want that self-sovereignty, but more importantly is so that we can fight against censorship. And as I've gotten to know you and I've thought about it and having conversations with you, is realizing that there are anarchist underpinnings to crypto, right? Like, whether you call it anarchism or libertarianism or whatever, it's like people want that self-sovereignty to be able to support the causes that they want, right? And to do the things that they want and not have to worry about any sort of authoritarian regime that says this is the rule, right? Like whether you agree with it or not.
In Russia, Pussy Riot are not even able to perform shows. So particularly our collective, like we found ourselves in a really weird spot. So we would not be able to generate any money in the country that supports us the most. Like we have a lot of supporters in Russia because people are just done with Putin. Like really a lot of people, they're just so mad at him. But the problem is like they can't really express their support to us in any legal way, because even if they donate money to us, they become targets. And there's been a number of criminal cases against supporters of people like us. Not exactly our supporters, but like people like us, like Alexei Navalny, who is my friend, who was just poisoned last year, and right now he's in jail. And if you use traditional banking system, it's so easy to track you, who give you money to. So I feel like for the feminist and LGBTQ and protest, just generally activist community in Russia, crypto is invaluable because it protects your identity, and you can, if you'd like, you can donate money to people and remain completely anonymous, and you're not going to go to jail for supporting Pussy Riot, and that's big.
Yeah, no, I definitely totally agree. And so I guess with that, like, let's turn to the actual NFT drop itself. The auction that just went up for sale at the top of the hour. Let's start. What are the benefits of the one-of-one piece, right? There's the ability for the winner to collaborate with you on any piece of art, which I think is great. What else are the other benefits that are part of it, and that you, if there are, or I know you also did a drop earlier today, and what is surrounding this drop, as well as what do you have planned for the future, if you can share any of that.
This drop on Super Rare is one of one, and it's a it's a collage of my actual prison sentence papers that I was given when I was in the cell number 309 in Moscow prison. And so it was really challenging to start work on this because it was overwhelming. These papers, they brought me not super pleasant memories, like times when I was extremely depressed and just suffering from severe headaches. But I've decided to work with these papers because I wanted to turn them into something positive. So that's why I applied all these childish, happy pictures that just poke you, and they ask you like, hey, do you want to build a better future with us? And it's called Virgin Mary, Please Become a Feminist. And it's a quote from our song for which we were convicted for 2 years in jail, and features this feminist figure, Virgin Mary, because we were accused of being feminists and thus being dangerous to the society. And it's actually in our prison sentence, which is fucking outrageous. I just reread the prison sentence while I was preparing this piece, and it makes no sense. I'm going to post an English translation of this prison sentence after we finish this conversation. I just made it down because I realized that probably most of the people who are going to see this piece, or at least part of them, they're not going to be able to understand Russian. So what's exciting for me was like we came up with utility for this drop, and the one that you mentioned is actually my favorite one, because I want to just acknowledge and build a monument for the fact that collectors and artists in this community, they are completely equal. So it's actually a place that is a great equalizer. And it's not like in a traditional art space or music industry or any entertainment industry when interactions between people are simply transactional. So being present in the NFT community and crypto community over the last year, I found out that we just learn so much from each other, and we just talk, and like we truly collaborate with each other. So that's why I decided to say that anyone, if it's a person or a group of persons who is going to get this one-of-one piece, they will be able to collaborate on, not will be, but they will be invited if they want to collaborate with Pussy Riot on any piece of art that we choose. It can be song and clothing line, drawing, music video, or animated series. Like honestly, anything.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like, I guess my question there is like, how have you, like, since entering the space, and I know the answer that I have for myself is like, how have you viewed the collaboration in the space and the support that you've gotten from other artists as well as collectors?
I feel like this space is not about gatekeeping. This space is more about opening the gates. And that's incredibly inviting and exciting for me. I was growing up in the activist community, and each of us, they had something bigger than just ourselves to fight for. And having that in front of us, it was a great equalizer. So say I could approach the biggest rock star in Russia at the time and tell him like, look, like let's perform, like they come to this rally that I'm organizing, and he would be completely chill with that. Like he would not be like, oh yeah, you have less Instagram, Twitter followers than I have, so like I'm not talking to you. They talked with us because we had something bigger in front of us, right? So then for a second I got stuck in the music industry because I honestly really love music, but I don't like the industry. And the music industry is really tough. It's like all about views. It's all about trying to quantify a human being, which is personally to me, I'm an existentialist. That's quite difficult. So I didn't do well. Like in terms of like me just getting depressed because I like if my friend just become famous overnight, they would stop talking to me. And this is not something that's like it's against my core values. So I don't like gatekeeping. like who does? But if for some reason it exists. So I feel like crypto community, NFT community, they're so different, and it's okay. Example. I was like, I want to talk with Vitalik Buterin. And then next day, I'm reaching out to him, and he's like, yes, sure. And we talked with him for 5 hours in a row. And he was extremely generous with his knowledge and time and investment. Though, like, clearly, Pussy Riot is much less than him, but, he did not care about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think one of the things I really love about the space is how people are so open to bringing in newcomers and helping them. And, I noticed it when I first came into the space, and I very much try to be open in helping people when they come into the space to understand it and to be like, hey, and I think a lot of it is really changing that mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance, right? Where our entire life, because of the nature of humanity and, scarcity of assets and scarcity of goods, is like, in order for me to eat, someone might not eat, right? But kind of flipping that entire paradigm on its head, where it's like, hey, like, we can all eat together, right? Like, I can help you eat and you will help me eat. And we're all gonna move through this together in a positive way. So, like, to me, that's one of, like, the things I actually love the most about crypto is being able to help somebody, and not necessarily doing it because I'm, in it for the rewards, right? Because, like, being able to help somebody is a big enough reward in and of itself, right? Like, I think when you really look at human interaction and the things that make people feel good, it's really just helping another human being.
Absolutely. And this is the thing that makes you feel alive, actually, in the end of the story. Because, money and fame, they definitely can help you to feel alive for a second, but then you always feel like you need more and more and more and more. But this feeling that you get when you help someone, I feel like I'm more like almost sometimes egocentric about that, because I'm just like, okay, I love to help. That's why I'm going to help you, because it's going to make me feel good. And it definitely, like, this ethos is, and realization of this pleasure of helping people, definitely it's a big part of the space. And I love to be here.
Yeah, like, for me, like, honestly, some of the most rewarding experiences have been helping somebody, right? And just getting that thank you. And, like, to me, it's like, I've had great success in the space, but the most fulfilling stuff is really being able to help somebody else and help them, like, you hear it all the time, right? Is teach a man, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man how to fish and you feed him for life. And that, to me, is very much like the crypto ethos, right? Teaching somebody the tools so that they can go out and use them as they want and affect the world in the way that they want.
That's what I noticed here. It's just incredible. I remember meeting Justin Aversano. I was just really struck with his generosity, because he would just spend hours on the phone with me, teaching me about stuff. And then he brought me to CryptoPunk community. Then he was like really nice. He was like, okay, this is Nadya from Pussy Riot. He made an introduction. He made the whole effort, and then he connected me with you and, like, with other people. Just like, wow, I've never seen that. I mean, I did see things like that happening, but in my activist community, it's not a norm in our adult, quote unquote, world.
Yeah, no, I definitely totally agree. It's very interesting. It's very refreshing, and it gives me, like, hope in humanity, right? Like, there's been, like, a lot of interactions I've had within crypto that, like, I'm like, wow, like, you always hear about, oh, humans are, people are bad and they have bad intentions, but it's like, no, people are naturally good, and we just have to kind of, work to bring that good side out in us. And, like, the fact that we're all here working on something together for the greater good, whatever each person's mission is, it's like we all want to make the world a better place.
I see here people in this room, so many of them, they just jumped on board on this project, and it didn't look like anything big in the beginning at all. Like, I mean, okay, what else? Like, how much what is the floor price now? It's fine. It's 4.4 ETH. So nothing predicted that. Okay, like, but a lot of people who are in this room right now, like Derek from Young Old, or Trish, or Taylor VTF and his Discord.art, and guys from the visitors community, and amazing developer Jacob who built our website. They just jumped on board because they believed in what Pussy Riot stand for. They were not looking for anything else, and we just spent an amazing time together. And also Trippy, my big love to Trippy. He's just a person who made this whole experience really fun because we had so much laughs while just like preparing this job, and it totally did not feel like job, even though we worked like 25 hours out of 24 a day.
Yeah, and I guess like to kind of talk about it for a second about like the actual drop, and you just mentioned the floor price, and I think you're gonna notice this over time, because this is what I've been noticing with artists and stuff, where they've had their sales and the resales is like the beautiful thing, especially for you with regards to fundraising, is that the royalty rate that you're gonna earn, right? Is there a royalty on the resales?
There is, yeah.
So like the beautiful thing is like, hopefully this helps fund your activism in perpetuity, right? So it's like, as these things get traded, and you can be a member of the Pussy Riot community, it also, a portion of those proceeds go for the activism, right? So it's like a really cool thing. And I know Justin and I were really working on that earlier this year. So it's really awesome to see somebody like yourself come in and kind of embrace it in the same way, and the same vein, not exactly the same, but like, just being able to create a fundraising stream as opposed to necessarily having to go out and raise money each and every time you want to work on something, right? And work on an issue.
Yeah, it can be challenging. I mean, like that's why we kind of got stuck with this billboard projects, because I didn't want to ask. Like, I remember we had the first conversation. I was like, yeah, I don't want to ask the public to fund it, because I feel like right after COVID, everyone's just recovering, so people are not having a lot of money. So I didn't want them to ask. I don't want to ask them to give me money for posters for my art for billboards, and at the same time, I mean, like, just asking someone to give me $20,000 out of their pocket, I didn't feel comfortable as well. So I think that, like, honestly, I'm so impressed with the model that Justin was able to build. And I remember just meeting him. His floor price was under 1 ETH, and now it's like hundreds of ETH. That's so talented.
Justin's story, the first time when I saw his success, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be way bigger than I thought, right? Like, this is going to be very, like, we all say, oh, this is going to be life-changing. But when I saw Justin really, work his ass, and all the credit to him, he's an amazing human being, and he has amazing intentions. And I feel like his impact on the world is only starting. But like, when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, like, imagine we can do this across, charities and being able to work towards causes that we want. And like, that to me is like the best thing, right? Of the possibilities that brings.
What I love in Justin's project, I mean, besides like art that he creates, is that he always tries to bring value to other artists. And it's just so easy, especially when experiencing some level of success, to be like, oh, you are not having success just because you're not hardworking as me. And no, he doesn't act like this. So he would be like, you have to have these tools, like, I'm giving you these connections, and you can be as successful as I am. Here's the map. You can decide to follow it or leave it, but I'm giving it to you. That's what he did.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that to me has been incredible for the things he's been doing for the space. And so, I want to be cognizant of your time. I know you have to get out of here in a few minutes, but I guess, like, real quick before you leave, do you have, I know you have the auction that's going right now. It's live for the next 24 hours. What are you working on? Any other drops that are upcoming?
Yes, I do. I also want to quickly mention other cute stuff that's coming for people who not necessarily win the piece, but who just bid on it. I'm going to sign posters with this artwork and send them for everyone who bids, because I believe that bidding matters as much as winning. It's part of the process. Also, you're going to be able, like every holder of even to 333 piece, you're going to be able for the next 3 years to get access to Pussy Riot concerts for free. And we are going to start we actually have it right now on our Discord. We have a private channel just for our collectors. So there's that, and I'm going to be in that channel. So if like you ever have any questions to me and when they reach out to me, you can go there. So it's a private access for collectors. And if you see that we're coming to San Francisco, you can be like, hey, can I come by to your concert? And most likely I'll just give you access to the green room, because I would really love to connect with people locally. And I work a lot with local dancers and performers, and I really love to see local members of my community. So there's that thing. What else do we have? Yes, coming back to
where's the best place for people to stay in the loop with what you're doing?
It's Discord and Twitter. Okay,
cool. That's awesome. And
Big Dick Girls collection is coming. So you asked me like, what is coming? There is this thing that we haven't cooked for a while. We've just been discussing it internally a lot. We felt like there's a need for anarchist females collection. So it's going to be revolving around the same values, like decentralization and anarchy and fighting the oppression. It's going to be called Big Dick Girls Collection, possibly Big Dick Girls Collection. I'm not sure. Like, we have to talk more internally about that. But the idea is to bring to the world this beautiful anarchist females, beautiful in their soul, because like, who cares about the way how they look? They're going to have like all sorts of body types, and the bigger they get, the more beautiful they are. So I think I really want to make this activist all-female collection, and that's going to come up in the next few months.
I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this piece that's bidding. I'm actively watching it, and I don't want to tip my hand to anyone, but yeah, like I'm really excited to see what happens and the impact you're going to be making in the space going forward, and how you're leading the way in all this. So thank you for your time, Nadya. I really appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with everything that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to everything you're going to do.
Thank you, Jimani. It was an amazing conversation. We should talk more. Yeah,
for sure. Every time we hop on the phone, we always have a great conversation. I feel like we always talk for at least like 30 or 45 minutes or so.
Yes.
So, but yeah, if you guys tuned in late or missed any part of this interview, you can check in on my YouTube channel at GMoneyNFT, or where any of your podcasts are listening devices that you listen to your podcast. But yeah, Nadya, thank you for your time, and best of luck.
Thank you, Jimani. Thank you. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Bye. Have a good evening.